This show is clean, pretty much.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Effizode 673. Hello, it is Mike Matthews broadcasting from the last place on earth, located somewhere in Podcastro Valley, California. Today, Benita, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player, the Brewmaster, plus the return of the much-loved segment News Random, where we look at some strange tech stuff that has recently changed the world in which we live, and this Heartbleed thing. Yeah, more about it. Mike's Daily Podcast. Hey, on yesterday's show, John Deere the engineer designed a Mystique bikini. Oh, Mike's Daily Podcast. But he made it out of coconut hair, so it's really uncomfortable. Hey, my dog does something that's really insufferable. That is, he has Restless Dog Syndrome. When I'm trying to sleep, he's making a bunch of noise, and I don't get any sleep until the dawn. Hey, I hear Basil shaking his collar. Mike's Daily Podcast. That's what he does when I'm podcasting, when he would rather be walking around the holler. Mike's. That's a country term. Daily. We never use that in the city. Podcast. Because there's no hollers in the city. Yeah. Unless you count the drunk psycho guy who's yelling at the cars driving by. But Basil, okay, we'll walk soon, don't worry. Basil, trying to get this podcast done is like trying to get off the phone with an AT&T representative, which I just went through. I had to call them up. I had a question about I have the AT&T universe, whatever thing it is. And this, first off, he's got an accent. I don't know where he's from. I cannot discern what country he's from, but it is very hard to decipher what he is saying. And but I'm, being really friendly. I'm being really patient with him. I had a question for me, answered it, and then I'm like, okay, bye. And he's like, but before you go, Mr. Matthews. That's not even what his accent sounded like, by the way, but that's the best I can do. Before you go? We want to give you a thing, brand new for free. What for free? More megabytes. Megabytes? Yes, we'll give that for you free. All right, that's great. But before you go, Mr. Matthews. We want to give you a phone and a television and all these stuff. And then, this went on forever, and I could not get off the phone with him. That's sales tactics, Mike. That's what they do to keep making money. Well, and do they use the people with the indecipherable accents to make it even more? Because you're really intrigued to know what they're saying. And you're saying, excuse me over and over again. And you can't get off the phone. And they've got you. You're in a wonderful zone where AT&T can keep you on the phone and keep pulling dollars out of your pocket. So that's the exciting thing I went through. I'm going to drop them so quick. Shh. I'm sorry. Not that Comcast is any better, but I'm out of there. I am, we don't have much in the way of choice. As Zoe Chase in Planet Money on her podcast, which is very informative, but I do find her accent to be completely hilarious. Although I can understand her. She said that they have a lot more choice in England. Yes, people can choose from all sorts of internet providers there. But here, we've just got 2. Oh, look who just walked in. Hi, Mike. It's Benita, the rodeo queen. How y'all doing?
And it's a disgruntled fiddle player, tell you what.
What?
I cannot understand people on the phone when they're talking to me and they got accents and such. I'm like, come on. Go back to your country. I can't understand y'all.
Well, most times they are talking to us from a different country. So, in a sense, they've already gone back to that country because they're already there. Disgruntled fiddle player. The person who can't handle anybody who's different from him.
I can handle people different from me. Like you. Yours different. You got a voice that sounds like a woman.
I do not have a... All right, it's a little bit higher up there in the vocal register. Yes, there are women with deeper voices than me. Yes, that's what happens, and we all have voices, and we make the best of it. Right? What we have. Disgruntled fiddle player, you have the lower register, and that's fine, and you can just keep talking with that low drone. John Deere, the engineer, has the same thing.
Yeah, I can't understand a word he say.
Well, that's just your issue to grind. Benita, can you understand Disgruntled Fiddle Player?
Yeah, you know what? I think that he sounds great, but I wouldn't mind him if he sounded like me.
That's great. I was telling someone the other day, my good friend Robert Welsh from Welsh on the World, about you and your voice. And he did not like your voice very much, Benita.
Oh, that's his problem. That's his issue to grind.
Right. That's what I told him. People just got a deal. Look who else just walked in.
Hello there, Mike. I make the root beer. I'm the brewmaster. Oh, boo!
Brewmaster, what kind of root beer did you make today?
Well, I heard that you did a drawing with the Disgruntled Fiddle Player on the MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST-Technology-4-18-14 website. Oh, boy!
Yes, that's right. I did. You can see the drawing now there. It's the podcast picture. Yes, the picture has to do with the Disgruntled Fiddle Player. Made some beer, but it turned out the beer became a sentient being.
That sounds like coffee. He made a sentient being?
No, and actually that is a coffee house in Savannah, Georgia. That is awesome, the sentient being. No, a sentient being, his beer became conscious. It like talked to me. It was weird.
Yeah, Mike, I don't know how that happened, but sometimes weird things happen here at the last place on Earth. My voice sounds great. It does not drone.
Yeah, it does. Hey, the Brewmaster.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, can you pour us some of your root beer, and we'll see if your root beer is also a sentient being.
I didn't make mine out of coffee.
No, that's just pour it.
That's what I'm doing. Calm down.
Sorry. All right. Root beer, can you hear me? Do you have conscious thought? What do you think of the show? Nothing. Good. It didn't become a sentient being.
Michael and Matthews, whatever you do, don't drink me. Because if you do, I will be inside your body and that will be really weird. Thank you. Just send me over in the corner there by your dog, Basil the Boxer. He seems like a nice guy.
Wow. Okay. Well, Basil seems to want you to be sat next to him, so I'll put you over there. Great. And yeah, I don't know why the liquids are becoming sentient beings. Oh, Basil just drank all that root beer.
Help! Mike, we really want to go on a walk.
I'm getting to it, dang it. Come on. I got to do this story about the heartbleed bug. So yeah, on April 7th, according to digitaltrends.com, the world learned of what's possibly the most severe security bug in the history of the internet, called heartbleed, discovered simultaneously by Neil Mehta, a security researcher at Google, and Finnish security firm Codenomicon. The bug comprises a security protocol commonly used by devices and websites worldwide. Heartbleed makes it possible for a hacker to scrape data from memory, including passwords, bank account numbers, and anything else lingering inside. The severity of the bug left many wondering how it could happen. OpenSSL, the security protocol in which the bug was found, is used all over the world. It's used not just in servers, but also routers and even some Android smartphones. You might think that some responsible party has a team of security researchers checking and double-checking the code, but in truth, OpenSSL is managed by a small group consisting mostly of volunteers. It goes on to say that an error was introduced by a German volunteer named Robin Segelman, who was working on an OpenSSL extension called Heartbeat. He submitted the code on New Year's Eve 2011, and it subsequently slipped through the review process. Heartbleed has existed unknown to the public for over 2 years. OpenSSL is a free software used by Fortune 500 companies, governments, and even military organizations. Yet these outfits almost never contribute funding or manpower to the project. The article concludes by saying the world must learn from this mistake. Using an open source project without contributing to it in the long term is a recipe for disaster, particularly when the project is a critical part of network infrastructure. The internet security shouldn't be upheld by a handful of volunteers who find their names in the news only when something goes wrong. What do you think about the Heartbleed crisis on the internet? Has it affected you? Email me, MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. What do you think the solution is? Less volunteers and, like they say, more money poured into the surveillance of platforms like this? Email me, MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. And we read your comments on the section emails from email. Also email me there if you'd like to be a guest on the show or if you'd like to sponsor the show, MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. There's also the website, MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Go there to find links to where to listen to the show in iTunes. You can subscribe to us there. You can also rate and comment on the show. There's also links to where to find us on Facebook and the Facebook page. Like the Facebook page, and when I post a new show, you can share that with your friends, and that helps the show out. Another way to help out the show is to buy something through the Amazon deal of the day, a great discount on whatever they are featuring on Amazon on that portal that you can find at MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST.com. If you buy something through that, we get a little bit of money. There's also links to where to find us on Twitter, YouTube, Yelp, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Stitcher, Mixcloud, and we also have the blog and the daily podcast picture there at MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST.com, as well as Mike's Daily Podcast Radio. It's there on the left-hand side of the web page. Click on that, and you can listen to past podcasts, and there's also great music mixed into that as well. MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST.com.
News Random.
This is News Random, where we look at some random stories that have to do with something that we all are immersed in these days, and that is tech, the technological realm. And here's some interesting stories that have to do with that.
If you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, if you're not into yoga, if you have half a brain.
Yeah, that was the old way of finding true love, was putting a personal ad in the paper, the personals. And this is now the new way, Tinder. According to the New York Observer and their article, Tinder is the Night by Molly Mulshine. Tinder, the controversial and addictive online dating app that might just send sites like Match and OkCupid to the startup graveyard. We now have dating apps. Websites were apparently too time-consuming. Feeling bored and lonely? Simply download Tinder, sign in through your Facebook, pick a flattering picture of yourself, and you'll be matched with photo after photo of potential mates. You give a gender, male, female, or both, then decide how far or close you want them to be, like 10 to 100 miles away, and how old, 18 to 50 plus. It's like ordering pizza. You can also write a tagline to describe yourself and add a few more photos for people who want to learn more about your looks before making their choice. Swipe right if you approve of someone's appearance. Swipe left if you're not into them. If you object someone, the poor person won't be able to contact you. But if you both swipe right, you'll be able to chat up a storm until you make plans for drinks at a mutually agreeable location. Tinder's success is undeniable. Since its launch a year and a half ago, the app has garnered 500 million profile ratings and is credited with more than 5 million new matches per day and 750 matches to date. In cities like New York, with fast-paced, cutthroat dating scenes, the app has taken off and just might be changing dating forever. Yet, Tinder's founders aren't satisfied. They want to diversify, a goal that for many a hot new tech company has turned out to be the kiss of death. Users tend to grumble every time a giant like the ever-changing Facebook adds a new feature. And now young people are leaving that site in droves. Nobody cares about Instagram's new direct messaging feature, and Yahoo's shift away from search toward, well, whatever it is they're trying to accomplish, hasn't been met with rave reviews and dollar signs either. How do you say no, though, when an app takes off the way Tinder has, especially among the young? Whereas traditional online dating sites like Match and OkCupid painstakingly cultivate the image of being for serious people, aka grown-ups, interested in long-term relationships, Really? Okay, Cupid is for long-term. All right. Tinder cuts to the chase. Tinder's co-founder and CMO Justin Mateen insists the app isn't for hooking up. For the record, the folks at Tinder now say they have taken action to prevent sex cam workers and prostitutes from soliciting clients with the service. Quote, says Justin, the vision is more about social discovery than just dating. We launched our dating vertical first because it was a sticky place to start. Facebook connects you with your existing network of friends. Tinder is where you go to meet new people. Biological anthropologist Helen Fisher of Rutgers University says she's not surprised Tinder is taking off. Snap judgments based on nothing more than image, the kind Tinder users make, may not be as superficial or unreliable as they seem. Quote, there's a reason they call it love at first sight, not love at first conversation, first smell, or first joke. The human brain is built to take in visual information, and that information goes deeper than mere aesthetic judgments. Looking at someone's face, it's possible to glean their age, grooming habits, and cultural background, even their personality, unquote. Tinder actually gives users more information than they'd get in real life. You know they're single or at least playing the field, and if it's a match, then they're into you. You also know, given the likelihood that Tinder attracts a certain kind of online dater, the tiny percentage of people looking exclusively to date a lot. Last year, Match's annual Singles in America survey found that just 3% of men and 1.6% of women fall into this category, a particularly vital attribute of your potential mate. Still, Dr. Fisher cautions against relying on online chemistry alone to select potential partners. Simply put, even if all you're interested in is hooking up, there are things you can't learn from a picture or someone's use of an app. And for all the shortcutting services like Tinder potentially offer, quote, the human brain is the finest true algorithm for discovering whether you find somebody attractive. And she adds, the bottom line is try to meet someone as soon as possible so you can use your own mechanisms for sizing someone up. Interesting.
Too many men have failed before. Whatever you do, don't pay the ferryman. Don't even fix a price. Don't pay the ferryman.
Don't pay the ferryman. Well, if you're working for Google, you don't have to do that. On Monday, January 6th, Google debuted its private ferry service connecting San Francisco's ferry building to the port of Redwood City near Google's main campus. 2 morning and 2 evening runs each day. Fairly or unfairly, Google buses have become a lightning rod for San Francisco residents who are fearful of displacement by newly arrived youthful tech workers with seemingly unlimited amounts of money and, in parentheses, riding another tech bubble. What did I say that? I didn't mean to. Unparentheses. We'll have to see. ... This, according to an editorial in the Bay Crossings by the Bay Crossings staff. The Google Ferry adds a new dimension to this issue and has sparked lively debate among ferry advocates about why a private company and not the Water Emergency Transit Authority, or WETA, the public agency charged with coordinating comprehensive regional ferry service, is running service to Redwood City. Public ferry service to Redwood City currently ranks as a low priority for WETA planners because projections show decidedly low ridership potential. Cash-strapped WETA, already burdened with operating existing services in Alameda and Oakland and getting new service connecting the East Bay and South San Francisco and getting that off the ground, seems unlikely to get behind service to Redwood City anytime soon. WETA was created with a broad mandate of ferry and emergency planning, but has been hampered by limited resources. Privately owned, operated ferries are not new on San Francisco Bay. The Tiburon Ferry is privately operated by Blue and Gold Fleet. Unlike the Google Ferry, however, the public is welcome, even though Blue and Gold gets no public subsidy for operating the Tiburon route. Red and White Fleet also operated, albeit briefly, a ferry connecting Richmond and San Francisco. But a private commuter ferry, not open to the public, will no doubt continue to rub transit advocates the wrong way. Meanwhile, Assemblyman Jim Frazier of Antioch, a Democrat, has introduced a bill that would revamp the board makeup of WIDA with a view to forcing ramped-up planning for a ferry service to Antioch.
Got to have room to move. That's all I need. That's all I ask for. Room to breathe. Room to move.
That's all we need is room to move. And that's all Jennifer Johns needed, an Oakland-based soul singer wanting to release her second album last September. But as the date approached, the project wasn't finished. One of the biggest obstacles, she said, was coordinating the efforts of so many people. Those who were helping her with social media, videography, graphic design, and more. Well, along comes Oakstop, the East Bay's newest co-working space. At Oakstop, she can hold strategy meetings, host listening parties, or just work at a comfortable desk. Co-working, oh, by the way, her Afrobeat electronica fusion album, Chronicles of the Aquarian Mind, will come out April 30th. Co-working spaces have become increasingly popular in recent years. They allow members to pay fees to access shared office space and various amenities. They often attract a diverse mix of professionals, such as freelancers, independent contractors, small business owners, and startup entrepreneurs. In addition to providing a convenient place to work, co-working spaces aim to foster a collaboration between members. I was at one recently in Pleasanton, and they had a really cool, huge break room and free those little pods that you put in, not the Nespresso, and not the Keurig, but these ones that make like a hot mocha with foam on top, and you don't have to do anything. You just put it in, press the button, put a cup underneath, and you're all set to go. That's what I remembered most from it. Oakstop, a 4,000 square foot space located at 17th Street and Broadway in Oakland, is based on the same concept, except that it caters primarily to artists and creative entrepreneurs. Oakstop is not focused on providing studio space, although it does offer that, but rather aims to give artists a place to work on the business side of their craft. Other plans for Oakstop include hosting performances, art shows, and workshops, and creating a retail component. The space is designed to complement, not compete with existing co-working sites.
Don't you open your heart, 'cause it don't mean nothing, the words that they say. No, it don't mean nothing, these games that people play.
I'm not playing that song for any particular reason other than that's Richard Marx, and he's married to Cynthia Rhodes, who is in the band and Emotion that we heard previously. Okay, now that we've segued into this story, this brought to us by the New York Observer. Oh, by the way, that last one brought to us by the East Bay Express newspaper, and you can check them out online at eastbayexpress.com. So the New York Observer says, there are two ways for a big enough name or publication to break its own media news. One is by releasing the news suddenly, surprising media watchers and reporters. That can be achieved by leaking the news to a major outlet or by tweeting a link to one's own announcement. Then reporters scramble to a computer to aggregate and retweet while scrambling to come up with think pieces about what it all means. The other way is by letting it out in small tidbits over time, stoking speculation, but refusing to comment. This takes away the shock value, but the lead-up means prolonged buzz and over time more ink. And if there is still a possibility of bargaining, the onslaught of publicity can help remind your employer that, yes, you are a big name that gets lots of traffic and people that care about you. Well, the Washington Post's 29-year-old wonk blogger, God, I hate that word, Ezra Klein's departure from the publication is a prime example of the latter. It was not exactly a shock when the Post announced that Mr. Klein was, in fact, leaving, nor was it a surprise that Mr. Klein's news site would be backed by Vox Media. Late last December, Huffington Post media reporter Michael Calderone wrote that Ezra Klein was shopping a proposal for his own website to outside suitors as well as to his Washington Post bosses. Well, Michael Calderone raised a host of questions. Would the Wunderkind blogger take his big name and equally big following? He has more than 400,000 Twitter followers elsewhere and start an entirely new media venture? Or would Amazon founder and still relatively new Washington Post owner Jeff Bezos decide that Mr. Klein was too big to lose and cough up money and editorial freedom? Mr. Klein declined to talk to Mr. Calderone, but the HuffPost reporter drew the obvious parallels between Mr. Klein and other journalists with large social media followings who have built a unique brand within a legacy media institution. So, what did the month-long build-up achieve for Mr. Klein? The kind of PR for him that money can't buy. A week after the Washington Post announced Mr. Klein's departure, typing Ezra Klein leaving Washington Post into if you entered a Google News search, it turned up 4,510 results. And the prolonged period of speculation is not just confined to Mr. Klein's extended dance with Washington Post. Guardian scoop hound Glenn Greenwald provoked a frenzy of speculation last October after BuzzFeed reported that he was leaving the British newspaper because the news leaked before he was prepared. Mr. Greenwald could not provide any details of his momentous new venture after a post alleged the still mysterious backer was a politically motivated philanthropist. George Soros briefly became the leading candidate. Within the week, eBay founder Pierre Omidyar announced that he was backing Mr. Greenwald's new site. That news was greeted with more blog posts, tweets, everything. When Nietzan Zimmerman, a blogger with the command of the internet, announced he was leaving Gawker, it didn't take long for his destination to be revealed. It became Whisper, an app dedicated to anonymous secret spilling. That's where he ended up. The job of media reporters has always been to report the hirings and firings, but Twitter has accelerated the pace of rumors and fueled speculation. Drops of information become scooplets. By the time the news is actually announced, there is an odd feeling of deja vu. When Brian Stelter announced he was leaving The Times to become the host of CNN's Reliable Sourcers, nobody was surprised. After all, Mr. Stelter had been auditioning for the role, posting pictures on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. It almost seemed like he was already at CNN. Contrast that with the surprise announcement last August that Mr. Bezos had bought the Washington Post, a story that only one man, the newspaper's media reporter, had prepared for. As we go outside of the last place on earth where we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast, somewhere in Podcastro Valley, California, met Richard Marks once. He's little.
And here's today's podcast picture.
But he's made quite a bit of money being a songwriter for other people as well as himself, and has had some huge hit songs and albums. As anyone who lived through the 80s and early 90s will remember, the picture, as we spoke about earlier, has to do with a home-crafted regular beer that Disgruntled Fiddle Player made. Not to be competing with you, Brewmaster, who makes root beer.
That's right. Don't step on my territory, Disgruntled Fiddle Player.
I wouldn't. Besides, I hate root beer. It's too sweet.
Mike, I gotta go. Bye.
Why did she do? She just went back into the last place on earth. We're outside of it now. Why did she do that?
Well, Mark, you used to have her leave at the beginning of the show, remember? And she'd go bye, and say something weird right before the door slammed.
Oh, yeah, that was always fun when we did that.
Yeah, well, you never do that to her anymore, so she just got to leave. And by leaving, though, she's got to slam a door when she leaves, so that involves going back into the last place on earth. That's what happens, tell you what.
What? Oh, well, okay. Sorry, Benita. Benita, come back out.
Yeah, y'all, but I just left.
How about at the end of the show, you'll do something, like a quick little thing where you do your bye.
Okay, that's fine. I don't care.
And what do you think about the sentient being beer that Disgruntled Fiddle Player made?
Yeah, it's okay. Until it starts yelling at me and telling me that I don't clean the beer mugs out well enough.
The nerve. Ooh, beer that has a nerve. That's weird. Tomorrow, we will bring you the return of the feature Into an Interview, where we will have a special secret guest. We'll find out who that is, and we'll also hear from Madame Rootabega, Valentino, and Bison Bentley.
Mike, Basil's barking because he wants to go for a walk with you right now, and he's got that sentient root beer in him, yeah.
Yeah, he won't have it in him for long. Once we go for a couple feet, he, always pees on the closest bush. Okay, Basil, we're going. Okay, you didn't have to rip my shirt off. Great. Now everybody can see I'm wearing a Mystique bikini top. Dang it.
Hubba hubba, Mike.
Wow, Mike, you really do need to shave your chest.
It has been suggested to me.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com.
Email Mike now at MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com.
See you tomorrow. Bye!
Oh, Basil, with your Restless Dog Syndrome. Look, there's a bush. Good job.
Bye, that was a pot push. Someone's gonna be mad.
If you like green empanadas.